and worked at Gallo Wine. We were all just playing music at night, driving during the day.
Everybody struggled. Nobody had any money. Me, Tommy, and Nikki lived in a two-bedroom apartment.
At that point, it was still really exciting. Nobody knew where it was going. It was sort of an adventure.
All of the clubs were kind of centralized right there on the Strip.
You could hear bands every single night.
There were so many bands in Los Angeles.
There was Rap,
Quiet Riot,
Wasp,
Dawkins,
Motley Crue.
They were all local bands that hadn't quite hit yet. Before they blew up, they cut their teeth in those clubs.
When we got together, we'd play places like the Troubadour, and we were lucky if we made $200.
Those early Quiet Riot shows, the only people there were the chicks who were the girls of the guys in the band and their friends. And that's it. That's how it starts.
It was just a matter of being able to get in and play. And you could play every night of the week in Hollywood then if you wanted to.
We were like nobodies. Our sound back in the early days was really raw. Just guitar with almost like no effects. It was just like, you know, hey, yeah, whoa, go. And anything with one syllable worked. We were just these lowly, poor, no-name dudes that were just trying to make a big name for ourselves on the Strip. We just wanted to headline a weekend at the Whiskey A Go-Go.
The Whiskey was a legendary club because it's where the Doors played, and the go-go dancers, the Cages. This was like legendary Los Angeles rock and roll.
When you walk into the Whiskey A Go-Go, you are immediately greeted with this scent of puke and piss.
All the bands started playing at the Whiskey, and it became like the focus point for metal in Los Angeles and in the Sunset Strip area.
There's 1,000 bands out there, and you really had to set yourself apart from everybody else.
Wasp was being very theatrical in their performance.
Wasp was throwing raw meat. You didn't want to be anywhere near the front because you were going to get splattered with raw meat, and there was blood on it, and it was just disgusting. It was really disgusting.
When Rat played the Whiskey, they threw these like toy store rubber rat things out into the audience, and people were going, ew, ew, especially because they're all stoned and loaded.
I've actually heard it was real rats, which is ridiculous. It wasn't like Wasp, it was actually taking meat and throwing it at people. So.
Motley Crue got much more theatrical than everybody else did.
Nikki used lighter fluid or something.
We put that stuff on Nikki's boots, and we would have these candelabras with the skulls and the flames, and I would take the sword very dramatically.
Hit him in the legs, and he'd go up in flames.
And people never saw that in clubs before. It just got the attention of fans, and then people wanted to come see what we were doing.
They started getting really popular on the Strip.
And everybody wanted to be around Motley. Everybody did.
Anytime we played the Whiskey, I would just invite everybody who wanted to go back to our apartment right back with us.
The apartment that Motley Crue had was literally right up the street from the Whiskey.
We'd be like the Pied Pipers, and there'd be a couple hundred people following us into this two-bedroom apartment, and it was crazy.
Motley's apartment would be compared to look at a floor in a club where everybody's smoking and drinking and putting their cigarettes out on the floor. That was the living room. That was a clean room, too, by the way.
It was nothing but booze bottles everywhere. Chicks everywhere. You had situations, a lot of sexual situations that went on in and around that camp.
It was just like a revolving bedrooms. Girls would come in, and we'd make them leave out the back window.
One time, and I walked into Vince's room, and he had one girl giving him a from this side, and one girl giving him a from this side.
Well, they used to strap these girls on this, like, wheel, and one time, I guess, they gave this girl a and she all over the place. So they almost had to burn the house down. It was just it was disgusting. They probably stopped that by now.
In the early days of that wave of LA rock, nobody was getting signed.
To get a record deal back then was almost impossible.
In Quiet Riot's situation, we were turned down by just about every label at least twice, some of them 3 times.
They couldn't get a record deal no matter what. They're working it, working it, working it, working their butts off.
We were playing at a club in the Valley. There was a producer who thought the songs were really good, and he wanted to take us into the studio to do some demos, which we did. Those demos then were heard by Epic/CBS. And then once we got signed, we cut the Mental Health record on available time. It was released. Nobody expected it to do well. For the first 6 or 7 months, it was a real slow grind.
I remember when that band was starting to break with Come On Feel the Noise. It was just a huge song.
This was November 15th of '83. That's when we found out that the next week, Metal Health was going to be #1 on the Billboard charts. Once that happened, bands started getting signed out of LA left and right. It didn't matter if you played rock, if your drummer had 2 bass drums, you got signed. If you had people that were singing like they were singing through helium, you got signed. And it was just insanity from that point on.
Coming up, metal puts the Strip back in Sunset.
I remember one night there was some guy in a band and some girl doing it in the dumpster. So, you know, you could do it anywhere.
Next on When Metal Ruled the World.
The local music of LA became the most popular genre in the 80s. Quiet Riot and Motley Crue blew everything up.
What happened with Metal Health is that was the album that really broke the market for a lot of these bands, where people saw that metal could be a major commercial port.
Quiet Riot instantly went to #1 with Come On Feel the Noise. And we released Shout the Devil.
Shout at the Devil became the anthemic record and brought Motley Crue to a much wider audience.
With the success of Motley and Quiet Riot, everybody was kind of scrambling to fit the mold.
People were interested in guitar solos and musical prowess and the whole culture that was attached to it. The look, loud music, big hair, all wrapped in one big nice package, you know. It was very appealing.
Everybody thought that LA was the place to go to sign a band. So every single company came and they signed everybody.
You would come to LA, you would play little clubs, and then you'd play the Strip. And then the A&R guys would go see whoever the biggest drawing band was.
And so if you're in a band in the Midwest somewhere and you can't go anywhere else, it's like, let's pack up and let's go to LA. That's what happened to Poison.
I knew that there was an awesome metal scene in LA. We knew we had to go to LA if we wanted to try to break big. When Poison first got to LA, we were gypsy kind of glam.
Poison's sound was pop metal, very rhymey. It was pretty hard to get record companies to come out and see